see, when people are taught something is good, and then they don't investigate it, and then they talk to have faith, but you shouldn't do that. You're supposed to be intelligent, so you need some equations. You can read all kind of books with all kind of theories, like I got some books here from India and other places, and Tibet and all that, and this book here. All these are good books, but they're not doing like I'm doing. They don't have any equations. So I really can't respect anybody can write a book, or they can go out and they can research and get a little bit from this book, a little bit from this book, and you think they're very learned and they don't know anything. But when they come up with some equations, you have to start judging men by equations, because there are so many voices in the world that it's very difficult to tell who's telling the truth. But even if they're telling the truth, if it doesn't benefit you, you don't need it anyway, because you have so many other things to think about. So now you got the kind of planet, this planet is vulnerable to any kind of creature, any kind of being to come on at any time they want and pretend to be a man or a woman or a child and come up and tell you anything. It's because since you're not in a sort of brotherhood where you protect your brothers and you look out after each other, anything can come on the planet and grab one of your brothers and take him to the moon or Jupiter, anywhere. You don't look out after one another. You don't know what's happening on the planet. So since you don't have that vibrational thing of protecting one another, of course this planet is vulnerable. Some people could come from outer space and take the whole thing over because you never notice what's happening and you don't care about it, because you think you're just like snug bugs on a rug. You think, I'm saved, it's all right, things are going to be all right, everything happens for the best. But I'm telling you, you'd better wake up. It's all kind of beings on this planet with you walking around. You got angels and demons and all kind of things that I can't even find a name for, walking around right with you. So you can't tell like you take in Philadelphia. In New York itself, one night about 1,000 tombstones were knocked over, huge tombstones. Now, they didn't find any tracks, no automobile tracks, nothing. Now, what happened in that cemetery? Now, in Philadelphia, the same thing happened. Now, they turned over about 200 tombstones. They said the teenagers did it, and they brushed it on out, but no one saw any teenagers in the cemetery or anything, but they said, well, they had to do it. Now, there's no telling how many other cemeteries that something comes and knock over the tombstone. What happened? Did the people get up? Well, something happened. So now, they didn't put that in the paper where that should have been headlines. 1,000 tombstones. Of course, the New York papers did have it in there, but the other papers didn't mention it. And as I told you, in Philadelphia, they played it down. Now, it happened in New Jersey, too. Some tombstones were knocked over the same way. So now, you got all kind of things happening on this planet. Black people have been singing a long time about in that great getting up morning, fare thee well, fare thee well. And where shall I be when the first trumpet sound? Now here you got something that they weren't just singing idly. They said the first trumpet gonna sound so loud, now you're talking about the sound, it's gonna wake up the dead. But now you have to watch that word wait, too. You've been surrounded by words. Now here you said, now, somebody wake up, that means like they're supposed to arise. But at the same time, here you got some black folks going to awake. And they say, I'm going to awake. Now if you put it together, they say, I'm going to awake. That's the awakening over there when somebody's dead. Now here's another word. Now you hear people talk about sound minds, showing you how important sound is. Sound minds, sound bodies, sound doctrine. Sound so loud, wake up the dead. Now you got this word sound in there, which comes down to vibrations and music. Once I told a friend of mine about sound and how important it is. So he went to work, something happened where two white fellows were displeased with what he said or did. So one of them stood on this side of him, and the other stood on this side of him, and they sent a beam, projected beam through his mind for his heart to stop. He said he felt his heart stopping. He thought about it, so this beam was going through his head just like a sword. He thought about what I said. He had a book in his hand. He took the book and he threw it as far as he could, and it broke the beam. So you see, there are a lot of people that know a lot of things now. A lot of people have been talking about black folks be dealing in voodoo. but you got a lot of white people that's been dealing in it. That's one way they've been keeping black folks down. You got a lot of witches in England. You got all kind of things happen. So it hadn't been a matter of guns alone. It's been a matter of wisdom, and these people knew things. Now, it's not a matter that it was bad that they knew it. They just was using something that they felt black folks was their enemy, so they used anything, all fair and love and war. So anything they could find to use against a black man, they'd use it. If he wasn't aware of the fact, then, I mean, after all, the books are in the library, and that's where they learn. They learn out the books. So they think, well, the books are there, why don't he go and learn something? But while he going around thinking of things from a materialistic point of view and not thinking of psychic things, making a great mistake. Because you take like the war between Germany and England was decided by some psychic people. Germany was about to win. So now these people, all of them were white. One day they sat around a table, about 12 of them or more, and they thought about what they could do to stop the war. They figured out that it wasn't Hitler that really had the brain, in a sense, it was Hess. So they said, we have to get Hess. They sat down and they thought about him and told him land in England. One day Hess got in his plane, his private plane, and flew to England and landed right where they told him to land. And that's the way England got him. So you see now, if they did that to a white race, you know what they'll do to you and what they've been doing. Now, unless you have a master strategist or something to actually be on a spiritual guide, you are never going to be the equal of the white race, because they are very adept at black magic and other kind of stuff. Besides that, when they speak of cosmic consciousness and all that, they talk about waking their mind some more where they can get some more stuff for you, because they can go over into some of the God's territory, and a lot of them speak about seeing God. They can go over into the devil's territory and ask them, what else do you have that I can do to the black man? You see, and while he's sitting up being a big dummy, trying earth things, these folks are using everything. But of course, they did run across something which they have been warning each other, don't bother with that. It's too dangerous. And what it is Egyptian magic. They don't even bother to call it black. They said, don't tell the white, don't bother with that. It's too dangerous. And they're quite right. It is, because it goes over into these hieroglyphic things. Now, from that point of view, like every nation has a right to protect itself, but it's time for men to find out that men use anything against what they call an enemy. So therefore, until you have the sort of planet where it's up under the jurisdiction of the creator of the universe, you're never going to have real brotherhood, or you're never going to have peace, which people talk about, because nations don't trust one another. You take like the white man, he doesn't really trust anybody black. And some black people probably do trust white people. I've seen a lot of them that do. But they don't be trusting black people. They always be watching them. And they don't trust nothing. They don't even trust each other, because they know that man reach a certain point and he be doing some things there that you can't trust him. Sometimes a man will just break. Like I heard about some pilots. They drive a certain length of time, be going across that international date line. They keep on going back and forth over it. Now, there's no line there or anything, but just the vibrations. They keep on going, and something happened to them. They died earlier than other pilots that just stay away from going across that date line. So when you got something like that happening, where vibration can actually be affecting the man when he's changing these times, and I mean, he's not even aware of it most of the time. It doesn't make any difference. Nature takes its toll anyway. So now, here's something else. In the meantime, a lot of people are trying to tell the world that I am doing something that is valid and something that is entirely different for this planet. Now, here's a write-up in the Sacramento Bee paper. Sun Ra, myth scientist, you see. You haven't had one of those before, so that's something. But this is a nice article to read about what is being said. Now, you got where the Germans gave a tremendous write-up for me. Then. Now you got another thing. Now this is England. A space warning from Sun Ra to the planet Earth. Now I'm saying they need help on this planet because of the fact that superior folks have turned the equations around on them and set them in a direction which is not good for them. Every man ought to be intelligent enough to see that all these bad things that are happening to humanity are not accidentally. They are designed and planned and blueprinted. Now all these signs of nature keep on warning man. You're going to tell me that he's going to sleep through all of that? What would people do if an army of bees attacked them intelligently and directly? If they keep on being out of order with nature, then the other insects and birds will get out of order too. Something can rain down from the skies and kill everybody on this planet, and there won't be anything they can do about it. Nothing whatsoever. If fire rains down from heaven, there won't be any kind of defense. If the water rolls up on this planet over all the land, there won't be any kind of defense whatsoever. Every now and then, nature throws out these warnings, like the birds who flew into one of the tallest buildings in New York. Thousands of them flew into that building and fell down to the ground. Now, you know that birds are not supposed to do that. They're supposed to have instinct. In a lot of places, bees are biting people. I have seen several instances when bees have crawled up men's pants legs to bite them. Now, bees are not supposed to do anything like that. Seas got bounds and rivers got bounds. The same thing goes for man. He's not supposed to be rising up above his bounds, because if he does, other folks will do the same thing. When I read the history of human beings, I don't see any progress. Everything is standing still, like humanity is on a treadmill, just walking and walking and walking. And the faster they walk, the tighter they get, and the further they are away from getting anywhere. They should see that if you're going somewhere, the scenery changes. But it's still the same old dull scenery and nothing changes. They say history repeats itself. If it repeats itself, then nobody is getting anywhere. If the history itself is no good, it's not going to do anybody any good to be part of a history if that history is bad. And it's bad, all right. It's worse than anything that any writer could write about. Of all the schools they have and all the philosophy sent to them, it's not supposed to be like that on this planet, but you see it is. So you can't blame the men who came and sacrificed their lives and gave up their time to science and education. These men gave up a lot of things for humanity, and all the time they gave up and all the sacrifice they made, sacrificing all their pledges, doing without families, love, and everything for the sake of people. All that time these men gave up was in vain. All the men who went to war, who died for a better world, died in vain. Now, the creator of the universe doesn't like anything like that, and this planet will be penalized far beyond its endurance if it's not careful. Not only will it be penalized, it will be eliminated out of the solar system because it's not serving any useful purpose. If a planet gets to that where it's no use to its own self, it can't be any use to the creator of the universe. If people get so they're no use to their own selves, then how can they be of any use to the creator or to anything? Yet it has reached that point, and it is a very dangerous point. Millions and millions of lives are at stake at this point in a way which has never been like this before, because this is another age that people are living in, and the codes are different than in the age that has just gone by. But you see, they're still over in that other age, thinking they can achieve something with the same rules they had. Now, I don't expect people to listen to me. Listen to the voice of nature and tune into the greater nature. I'm not talking about nature on this planet. It's out of tune. Tune into the greater nature of the universe. It's always in tune. Nature is like an instrument. This planet is like an instrument. Instruments get out of tune, and when they do, the best person to tune it is really a master musician. He's got the natural sound and know how it's supposed to sound. If it's just like on a piano. If you got all the G's out of tune, you can arrange the scale, and nobody's going to miss that note you took out. You can add 14 notes, or you can do some more down to 5 notes. You can change scales, and so can the creator. He's a musician too, you know. If this planet keeps on being out of tune, he can kick it right out of the orchestra. You've heard about the music of the spheres. That's what it means. Every planet is a sphere, and every planet has got a note. This one is on the note of G right now. Maybe it's not supposed to be G, but it named itself G. Now, that's over in England. They have that in a newspaper called Friends. Now, this note G, you notice everything is based on this 7. You got 7 days in a week. You got 7 notes in the scale, where you start at A and you end on G. Now that makes G to 7. So now you got this 7. Now G is the name of the earth, as I said before. 7. It's over there with the 7th day is a day of rest. So you see, this rest and this 7, because God rested on the 7th day. Now, among black people, you'll find many black men who actually, they really be telling some truths that could help the world. They don't have a lot of education, but they tell some astounding things. Like in Chicago, a black man was out talking to some black people about, and all at once he said, they said that God made the earth in 7 days, and 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested. And he said he did a goddamn thing since. So he said at that time, it really surprised me that someone would say something like that. But I kept on listening to black men who didn't have any education. They kept on talking things that I had to recognize it, because I knew that they weren't saying these things. I knew that something was talking through them. Sometimes the creator of the universe, other beings, want to talk to people, and they come to an intellectual, and their mind's so full up with what they know until they won't speak, you see. They might think that people would say that it's ridiculous, and they won't speak. But then every now and then a voice will come and speak to any man and say, tell the people I said such and such a thing. Now this man got so much wisdom and everything, he said, I'm not going to do that because I'd be ashamed to tell people that. But you find out that the greatest men that have come along, the prophets, they didn't care nothing about what people thought. You find these men had to go through a lot of shame. A lot of men came up and told the truth, like saying the world was round, got burned up for it. As far as truth is concerned, you've had many men to suffer and to die for the word truth. Now, that's very strange that they would have to do that. If the creator of the universe is just, why would he let people go through all of that? Then I found out there are certain laws on this planet. The creator doesn't really come on the planet or do anything about it as long as the people on the planet don't care anything about themselves. And they want to take all that, that's them, because he's not a human being. So he's not going to be imposing his laws and things on human beings because they might not be, they won't be able to come up to his standards. But now, like if some people desire his help, it's just like the United States. Now they're over in Vietnam because some people over there in Vietnam asked them to come over there. They didn't just go over there. If part of the nation asked them, come over and help us. So now they went over there. Now that's where the creator is. If some people on this planet want his help, you can run on and help them. But I mean, they have to realize that the enemy will be completely exterminated, because the creator of the universe doesn't come on a planet without just conquering it completely. He leaves things to God too. This planet has been up under God. Now God has the qualities of forgiving people and having pity on them and all that. But the creator of the universe comes along, he's going to look for them to be exactly like they're supposed to be, the way he made them. And he found out they aren't. It's just too bad. When you get through with them, they will be like they're supposed to be. So now you take in Africa, the Africans, they know about the creator of the universe. They got some temples to him that nobody goes in. Now they got these other gods, which they call lesser gods. And they know those gods are not the really one they're supposed to be worshiping, but they call this creator the God of heaven. And they say that he's so mean that he has, you can't, if you don't follow what he's saying, well, you just get eliminated or something. So the Africans know about it. They have that little voodoo and different things, but they don't bother with him. And that particular God that they know about is the one that black people over here was worshiping. But I suppose they wanted to be free. They wanted to be like the rest of the nations where they could be free. And so they're free now, but they don't have any protection, you see. Sometimes freedom mean that. You be out there free, and it's just like a wild horse out there. Anybody can go out there and get and take a wild horse because he doesn't have an owner. He doesn't have nobody to protect him. Now, when black people were owned by the creator of the universe, they didn't have anything to worry about. But then they substituted the white man for the creator, and he became the owner, and he became the master. And they started calling him master. Some of them called him old master. See? And they got over into that thing, calling him the master. And then he called himself Lord, see? You got Lord Calvert. It's got a white man's picture on there, Lord Calvert. Now, a lot of black people like that. Now, you got these landlords. Now, most of the landlords, I mean the ones who are legally the landlords are white people. Because like you take like a government, they want somebody's house, they come and take it. Then the people can get out and pick it and do everything they want to do. And the government want that house, want to put a road through it, they come and do, just like they did a black man in Philadelphia, they want his house. And the neighbors, they say his house looked too bad, that it spoiled the neighborhood. So it was his house. He bought it and paid for it, didn't know anybody anything. And one day the white people got them a big bulldozer and came and pushed the house down to the ground. They had to run in and get the black man out. And you saw the elderly black man. He was sick. They had to carry him out because they didn't care, because they didn't want his house spoiling the looks of their neighborhood. So they're still trying to get him some money or get him another house. And I understand that's because these people, the white ones really own their land, because they took it, you see, and wasn't nobody else to take it back from them. So they made sure they got rid of the ones that owned it, so then they own the land. The only somebody can get the land back from them is the creator of the universe, and he better have himself ready, because they're not going to give up, you know. They used to having things. So now a greater master than them would have to come along before they're going to turn the black man loose. So somebody come, you take like, if the Russians want to come over and take the black man, they have to fight this country down to the ground. Because the black man is on, he's done a lot of things as far as inventions and all that is concerned. If you take away all the inventions that the black man has given to America, well, you wouldn't have a lot of things. You wouldn't even have this subway they're getting ready to buy. You wouldn't have that because he set up the principles for it with that third rail. He did a lot of things. I mean, the black man did so many things that it's impossible to even conceive that he's such a dummy. But then history proves that he did it. So then if he did all those things in a condition where he didn't have an education, he had to have somebody on his side. He had to create a universe on his side. Now here's another book called God's Children. This is a very important book too, by Archibald Rutledge. That's a very good book because this man is, his father had a plantation, and he's talking about, he said, my Negroes, I said they are mine because my father gave them to me. That's the way the book starts. And he said some of them descended from Egyptians, Nubians. He went on to tell everywhere that they descended from. So that's a very good book to have. It was written by a man who had slaves. He knew all the different types of black people. He also said that he'd like to see a black man who's natural, because if he gets out there by a tree, he looks like he belongs here. And it looks like, well, he's the master and I'm his servant. Now this is a white man talk, say he's natural. And he gets out in the woods and I can look at him, I can tell he's just a natural. He can do things I can't do. He can do things that the white race can't do. Now this is an honest white man telling everything he knew about black people. He's telling everything because he also talked about black women. He said that in one case, and it's some black women, he noticed that the black women in the kitchen, they'd be in there cooking, and they wouldn't even feed that children. They'd feed the white children first. If one of that children came in there and wanted some food, they'd knock him upside his head. And he mentioned that too, about how much in love they were with white children rather than their own. Now he doesn't pull any punches. He's telling the truth on everything, on his own race, on the black race. He always tells about this incident, which I might have mentioned before, about this mule that wouldn't move, and they put a fire up on him and everything. And finally, a black man came along and whispered in the mule's ear, and the mule promptly got up. And he said, yeah, I always ask this black man, what did you say? He wouldn't tell anybody. So then I said, I know what he said. He said, well, brother, you know that they always talk about us. Why don't you get up and stop acting like that?